How can you have two different people look at the same event and have completely different reactions to it? It could be a beautiful sunny day, and one person said, wow, it's a beautiful sunny day. Or you might have someone else say, it's a terrible day. The difference in perspective all comes down to mindset. There's an ancient Chinese proverb, a story of a farmer, that illustrates the difference that you can have in your mindset. One day, that farmer lost his horse. The horse took off and ran into the forest. The neighbor said, oh, that's tough luck. I'm sorry you lost your horse. That's such bad news for you. The farmer replied, we'll see. A few days later, the horse returned. And not only did it return, it brought two additional wild horses along with them. The neighbor ran to the farmer and said, look at your good fortunes. You've got 3 horses now. You've got such great luck. The farmer said, we'll see. The next day, the farmer's son decided to ride one of the wild horses. And being a wild horse, he kicked and the son fell and broke his leg. The neighbor came back again. I'm so sorry that happened to you. What bad luck you've had. The farmer replied, we'll see. The very next day, the army came by and they were doing a conscription to add additional soldiers to their war. Noticing that their son was badly broken with a leg, the son got passed up and didn't have to join the military. The neighbor said, what good luck you had. Your son is saved. And the farmer continued saying, we'll see. What I love about that story is that it gives you perspective of how different situations can really change your mindset and how you can view it. Another great Stoic quote goes by, it is not what happens to you that matters. It's actually how you react to it. You think about it. 2 people could quit a job. One would be ecstatic, leaving the company, finally getting rid of the torture, the mundane work, where another person might view it completely different in a negative fashion. And the power is, you actually have the power to dictate what that means for you in that moment. Stephen R. Covey talks about the stimulus and response, that anything that happens in this world, anything that happens, there's going to be a stimulus. And from that, there's going to be a reaction. But before you react, there's a really tiny, tiny space in between. He calls it the freedom to choose. And you think back, all the things that have happened in your life, any reaction you might have had that you just kind of regretted or wanted to do differently. That was that freedom to choose in that small space. The great thing is that you have the freedom to choose your perspective. And changing your mindsets, improving your life, understanding what's most important to you, all depends on this small mindset shift that you can make. The problem is that most people don't feel like they have control, that they operate unconsciously throughout their life, moving from one thing to another thing to another thing. But when they actually step back and realize that they actually have a choice to react accordingly, they have all the power. You see, changing mindsets has nothing to do with latest tricks or tools, even reading a bunch of books, trying to understand all the thought leaders out there and try to instill all the knowledge that they've had. Sure, what they can provide is great information. And it's great to learn from mentors that have done something similar. But the very first step on changing your mindset and literally changing the direction of your life all starts on the inside. And it all starts with your choice on how to see things. I've shared with many of you that I've had cancer before, twice in my life. And you hear this quite often from people that have suffered from some type of disease or something traumatic. I wouldn't change a single thing. Of course, I can say that now, but in the moment of when it happened, with all the emotions and all the feelings, it's harder to see. But in retrospect, everything that I went through, all the changes and all the adversity and all the struggles led me to who I am today. And with that additional insight, I can now use that perspective going forward on how I view things. A lot of people told me that you're an optimist. You're always seeing the brighter side of things. And this is even before I went through cancer. Sure, it might be part of my predisposition, for instance, to be an optimist. It's also a muscle that I've learned over time, that the longer that you sit in negativity, the longer you sit into uncertainty and fear, you're basically saying, here's my power. I don't want it anymore. I'm going to give it to whoever, the being, the soul, anything out there, except for yourself. And what you're saying is, you want to give all your power away to someone else. The uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I'm still battling it today. But I'm able to recognize it a lot faster. And also recognize that, hey, I don't want that feeling. That feeling leads me down a path in my gut. I can feel it physically. I'm anxious. I'm worried. And I can recognize it. And I can step back and away from it. Because, like all of us know, life is truly short. But until you realize that you actually have the power to choose where you want to go, the longer you're going to live in this, what we call an unconscious world, moving one thing to the other, to the other. So sure, staying optimistic, being positive, sounds like a very simple thing. There's actually 3 steps I want you to follow that have helped me move into this optimistic mindset, to this mindset that you can actually change for the better. The first is saying, so what? So what? What do I mean by that? Any challenging situation that you have, anything that you might find worrisome, something you can't overcome, a fear and anxiety, for instance, strip it down by saying, so what? For instance, if you have a big mortgage payment coming up and you're worried about some type of project, some type of money coming through, what will happen to that? So what? Well, if I don't pay for that, I'm going to be in lots of debt. So what? Well, I'm going to have to find some additional funds. I might have to find something else that's important. And I'm probably going to be worried about what other people think about me. So what? Well, I guess I'll just look for new work, and I'll have to adjust my spending, and I head in a different direction. See, by peeling it back over and over again, this problem that you have becomes a lot smaller and a lot smaller to something that's a little bit more tangible. The second piece of advice I give you on changing your mindset is really identifying what's really most important to you. Sounds simple, but again, we go through our days over and over and over again. We don't really ask this question and we don't answer it. Sit down with yourself. What is truly, truly important to you? Great question to ask. Sometimes morbid, but it really gets the mind thinking. If you were to leave this planet tomorrow, what would you want to spend your last few hours doing? Who are the people that you would want to talk to? What are the things that you would want to pass down and let it be your legacy, or what people remember of your work? When you simplify it to a finite amount of time, you'd be very, very surprised on what comes back. And all the things that you thought were really important, they don't. And it doesn't matter anymore. The third piece of advice on changing your mindset would be win the day. Win the day. Something I'm working on all the time. What I mean by winning the day means to break down all the little things, all the small steps that you can do today that's working towards your particular outcome or goal. Could be a new job, could be a new revenue, could be a new project, new relationship, new anything. And everything seems really, really big at first. And when it seems really, really big and complex, we actually just don't do it. Any friction, we just bow out. And that's not motivating at all. Start with really, really small steps. Things that you can do. If you're starting a new project, think of a couple liners. Think of a paragraph that you want to write outlining this project. If you want to build a relationship, think about when we can meet up with that person. What would you like to say to that person? What kind of feelings and emotions would you like to convey? All these things are really tiny steps. And if you can outline them on a daily basis, even better on a weekly basis. I'll show you mine. This is like a little digital notepad that I use. And I write down all the things I need to accomplish that day and the week. And they're not huge. And I know if I accomplish those tasks every single day, I can only control what I control and have done enough for that day to make it happen. And all these small steps start building towards that mindset of productivity, living a better life, and living an optimistic mindset. So, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, connect with me on my website. I love to hear from you. I want to hear about what you thought about this video, but more importantly, how are you changing your mindset every day? Because at the end of the day, mindset is all that matters. Everything that happens outside, that happens to us or for us, we own it 100%. If you don't have the right mindset, it's going to dictate the quality of your life. And the good news, as I mentioned, is that you have the power to change your mindset one step at a time.